Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, 138 MMA proudly brings to you the hottest picks in the world!
Hello everyone and welcome to another full card preview and predictions video. This one is for UFC Fight Night Dern versus Jan. Now we've got some really exciting fights on this, and I know that a lot of you are thinking there's not a lot of name value here. That's okay, because these are the cards where the money's made. This card has me really excited because there's a lot of really good fights on this card. A lot of fights where I feel pretty confident in my picks. So that means you guys, if you trust my decision making, can see some good opportunity here. For me, I've already looked at what I like and I've already made my analysis. So now it's time for me to pass that knowledge on to you. So let's move right along to the next fight. But before we do that, if this is the first time to the channel, welcome to the channel. We do break down all of the UFC cards, full card, top to bottom, or bottom to top, I guess. We also do the Dana White's Contender Series every Tuesday. Unfortunately, our last Tuesday is coming up real soon, or already has passed, depending on when you've seen this video. And lastly, we also do the Bellator cards. At least we did on the last one, and I hope to keep going with those as long as you keep showing support and liking those videos as well. With that said, if that kind of thing interests you and you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to this channel so you can see more of this content. And if you would be so kind as to drop a like on this video here, I'll also remind you later in the video. But let's get to that first fight, all right? Okay, and we have a battle here between two guys who are both 2-3 in their last 5 fights. That is Randy Costa and Guido Cannetti. You would think that these guys are going to be similar skill set, but I want to kind of get into that real quick. There's not a lot to say on this fight, but these two are not as close as the last 5 fights might suggest. Okay, so for Guido Cannetti, he doesn't fight all that often, so there is that. Might have something to do with the fact that he's 42 years old. So, you know, I mean, if I'm 42 years old, I'm probably not fighting very often either. But he's only got cardio for about that 1 round. So after that first round, which is a good first round typically, it slows off pretty quick or drops down pretty hard. Something I will point out about him, though, is that he did get Chris Moutinho out of there earlier than Sean O'Malley could do. So I guess there's that. But yeah, Guido Cannetti, at this point in his career, I'm sure there was a time when he was much better. In fact, there was. If you look at his record, early on, he did pretty well. Had quite a few wins, not very many losses. And then he kind of just, at one point, turned downhill. And it hasn't gone the same since. So, on the other side for Randy Costa. So, also 2-3, but the level of competition's been a lot higher. Those losses are coming to, like, Adrian Yanez and, I guess, Tony Kelly, which is not, I mean, you know, hit or miss on that one. But, like, he's losing to a bit better competition here. And he hasn't looked too bad in some of those losses, even though he's been finished in a couple of those. He's shown moments. In this fight, he will have a 3-inch height and a 5-inch reach advantage over Cannetti, which is also something you like to see. And I think he does have the better striking. So for me, basically, this is going to be a fight between two guys fighting for their jobs. And I think that the clear-cut winner here should be Randy Costa. If I'm wrong, I will be very surprised. I'm fairly confident that Costa gets this done. Cannetti is at the end of his career. He's 42 years old, and you can't fault him for that. I'm not saying anything crazy here. The guy's 42 years old. He's coming up to the end of his career. Costa, still young, still in his 20s, has a chance to kind of keep it going for a while. Do I think he's ever going to be a champion in the UFC? Probably not, and that's, you know, there needs to be guys that are in that mid-tier. Otherwise, if everybody just retired the second they realized they weren't getting a title, we'd have a real short roster. So for that, Randy Costa should be able to get this one done, stick around the UFC for at least another couple of fights. I do like him pretty heavily in this matchup, but the odds are a little extreme, minus 300. It might be worth it, though. I mean, I can't see Cannetti winning this fight. He did get that win over Moutinho in his last fight, but Moutinho's just not UFC level. So I hate to say that. He put on a fun fight against O'Malley, even though he was just a punching bag during that fight. It was an exciting punching bag, all right? So with that said, Randy Costa's a pick. If you think I'm crazy, let me know, but I have a strong feeling that most of you are picking Costa as well. So let's move on to the next fight. This fight here is one that I'm the most excited about from a betting perspective because I think it's lined wrong. We have Julija Stoliarenko taking on Chelsea Chandler. Now, Chelsea Chandler is 4-1 in her MMA career, not just her last 5, but her pro MMA career, that is. Whereas Stoliarenko is 2-3 in the last 5. Here's what I see. When I saw these odds and they opened, Stoliarenko was minus 110, as was Chandler. Now I think they've shifted just the slightest bit in the way of Stoliarenko. I still think that's off. Stoliarenko should be about a minus 170, 175 here by my assumption. Why do I say that? Chandler has beaten nothing but cans. And I hate to say that about those girls. I'm sure they're going to be good at some point. I'm sure they're going to put in the work. But right now they're cans. Why do I say that? When she's beating them, they're like 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, whatever. They don't go on to win again after that. Either they never fight again or they don't continue. They just go on a losing streak of 2, 3, 4 fights and they don't ever win again. I'm pretty sure that this is true. Correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone in her pro career that she has beaten has never gone on to win another fight. Let me know if that's wrong. I know that some of them are fighting on an Invicta card coming up really soon. It might be the day before this. Could be wrong about that, but if it is the day before and they happen to get a win, okay, I'm wrong. But as of right now, so before Friday, if Chelsea Chandler has beaten anyone that has gone on to get another win after this, let me know, because I don't think she has, and I could be wrong, but I don't think she has. On the other hand, Stoliarenko, she had a rough start to her UFC career, 0-3 in her first 3 fights in the UFC. She did recently just get a nice win over Jessica Rose Clark, who just gets armbarred, I guess. I don't know. She doesn't really protect her arms super well. On that, though, Stoliarenko does have really sick arm bars that she can hit them on people who are a bit better than you'd expect to be giving up their arms. So I will give Stoliarenko and Jessica Rose Clark in the sense that she got armbarred by somebody who's good at arm bars. But Stoliarenko can hit that armbar on people that probably shouldn't be normally getting armbarred. So she does have that skill. She has horrible, I don't want to say horrible. She has reckless, careless, wild striking. It can be effective. It's not, but it's not super pretty and technical. But it can be effective. So wild striking isn't always bad. I put it as a negative here. I don't know if it is. On the other hand, we have Chandler, who does not believe in defense whatsoever, whether that's in the grappling exchanges, the striking exchanges, does not believe in defense. She's 100% offense, which me personally, I think is great. I think the best defense is a really good offense. But I can see how sometimes that comes back to bite you. And in the case of Stoliarenko here, this matchup particularly, wow, that was hard to say. Particularly, Stoliarenko has a really good upside here. And I want to say that I've already noticed the line shifting. And a lot of people are hammering that Stoliarenko line. I do not doubt that will be the case for the rest of this week. Stoliarenko should be at least minus 170, 175, something like that. The odds are off. Stoliarenko by submission, also a really good play. I'm giving these particular picks away for free because this is my favorite place on the card for that opportunity. I think Stoliarenko gets this done. I just don't think Chandler's ready for this level of competition. I know she has decent jiu-jitsu. I didn't even write it up there because it's untested. It's, like I said, she's beaten cans. But I know that she does train with a lot of higher level jiu-jitsu fighters. Her striking, you could see what it's like. It's very aggressive, very, very 100% offense 100% of the time. And that's great at the lower level. It'll be interesting to see how she does against Stoliarenko. So for me, Stoliarenko's the pick. I think it's a very good pick. I'm pretty confident in that pick. I do like the odds that she has. I do believe that there's money to be made there. I will feel like a total dummy if I am proven wrong and Chandler comes out and just whoops Stoliarenko. And if so, please come back to the comments and tell me I'm a dummy, because for whatever reason, I'm really high on this fight for Stoliarenko, and I never thought I would pick her in the UFC. I picked against her first 3 fights. I picked her against Jessica Rose Clark. I was wrong on that one, but I did. I'm picking Stoliarenko here. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like I said, never thought I'd pick Stoliarenko, but I am. Let me know what you think, if you think I'm crazy. Also, after this fight, if you see this fight and it comes down where Chandler gets the win, feel free to come back and tell me I'm a dummy, because I totally deserve it. All right, so it should be a quick breakdown on this one here. We got Maxim Grishin taking on Philipe Lins. 3-2 for Lins, 2-1 for Grishin. So for Grishin, strong leg kicks, better level of competition by a lot. On the Lins side, he's looked like he's in better shape in his last fight, and he has questionable fight IQ. I'm going to kind of breeze through this one. I think it's pretty clear. I don't think there's a lot of people picking Lins, and here's why. Questionable fight IQ is one, but also he's fought in the lower level of competition, and whenever he does make that step up to the next level, even if that level is just like the upper mid-tier, he has not done well. He's lost those fights. He's lost to Tanner Boser, lost to Andrei Arlovsky, even clear back in Bellator when he fought Kelly Edmondson. Is that how you say that? I don't remember how you say it. Anyway, fought him, lost to him as well. whenever he takes that next step up, he'll get some wins. He'll string together a good 2, 3, 4 of them, or whatever, and then he'll fight somebody that's up that next level, even if that's just the upper mid tier or like higher middle mid tier. That's pretty wild. So he'll fight them, and then he'll just get knocked right back down. So for me, I think Lin's record is a little bit better than his skills, and I guess not even his skills. His fight IQ is what cost him a lot of fights, like it did in the Arlovsky fight. Arlovsky's just a smart fighter anyway, so that's hard to compare against. For Grishin, obviously he's fought a lot better level of competition. He has a rear naked choke submission win over Alexander Volkov. Now, people that say, oh, Volkov's been hit or miss lately, look at his last 5 fights. Look at his record. Look at his record in the UFC. It's pretty dang good. So, still, like, I know this was, 2010, I think it was, when he fought Volkov. The fact that he got a rear naked choke victory over Volkov, that's a pretty good deal. So, for Grishin, he's obviously fought the better fighters. He beat William Knight when William Knight was, like, way heavy, when he missed weight by, 12 pounds or something. So, Grishin, I think, is the better fighter here. I think he's going to kick the heck out of the leg. I think he's going to be able to get the fight wherever he wants it and do better. I don't think it should be a landslide. There is a path to victory for Lins. These are big guys, like heavyweight, big guys. Grishin should get the win here, though. I think it's clear-cut. If you think I'm wrong and you've got Lins, let me know. I don't think many people do. Grishin's a decent pick right here. I think last I saw, the odds were like minus 180 or something like that. At that, you can play it. It's not great, but you can play it. But yeah, Grishin's a pick for me. Both guys are old, so you can't even go that. They're both upper 30s. Yeah, straight away, Grishin. I'll see you on the next fight. Another fight I'm really excited for. We got Brendan Allen taking on Krzysztof Jotko. Both guys 4-1 in their last 5 fights. Both guys fighting a pretty good level of competition. Their only losses being to Sean Strickland for Jotko and Chris Curtis for Allen. Strickland obviously in that top 10 echelon, fighting up there for the likes of title eliminators when he lost to Pereira. So, good fighter there. On the other hand, we have Chris Curtis, who beat Brendan Allen, and Chris Curtis was, he was on that tear where he was knocking out everybody, beating them all. So for me, those 2 losses, not a big deal. Both guys still have a good ceiling. Both guys are obviously still working their way towards the top. Here's the thing about these 2 guys, though. The fighting style is what makes me pretty excited about this matchup, because I see potential for gain, which is obviously why we're here. We want to watch these fights, of course. We like watching fights, but we also want to maybe make some money on those things. So that's what I'm helping out with. Maybe you just like to watch them and hear my opinion. That's cool too. But for those of you wanting to make some money on them, I see a chance here. So for me, good volume out of Jotko. You see him able to control a fight, hit guys with a lot of shots, decent enough combinations, nothing crazy, but hitting 3 or 4 punch combinations, keeping guys moving back or moving back himself and landing shots. Never really just standing still. He's controlled in his approach, so like I said, he can kind of control his output, meaning he doesn't burn himself out too early. The problem with this is he has very low power in this, and I don't mean low power like if he hit me, I wouldn't go down. Dude, I'm like 145 pounds. If he hits me, I'm dead. But what I mean by low power is that when he hits other middleweights, he's not stopping him with one shot typically. I don't know that he ever has, but if he has, I must have missed it. Either way, you're not seeing it, okay? He's getting a lot of decisions in his wins, and there's nothing wrong with that. A win is a win, but there is something that goes into this. So Brendan Allen, on the other hand, something I want to point out before I get into all these pluses, is ability to force the fight. As you see it right there, Allen can make a fight ugly. And if he makes this fight ugly with Jotko, I think that the level of striking that Allen has, which is pretty good as well, not quite to Jotko's level, but pretty good as well, it's uglier, and he can make this fight a bit uglier. Brendan Allen has a better grappling. As you see it right here, he should have a massive grappling advantage. And I don't say that because Jotko's a bad grappler. He was able to get the win over Gerald Meerschaert, which is a big deal. But Brendan Allen has some pretty slick grappling. He's choked out quite a few guys, beaten people that you wouldn't expect him to be able to get the win over with that grappling. So he's shown that he's a lot better prospect than we thought. He's very well-rounded because, like I said, the grappling's really good. The striking is not bad at all itself. So he's a well-rounded fighter. Usually well-rounded is a bad thing. Usually that means, like, when I put out well-rounded up here, it's because I don't have anything else good to say about him. But in this instance, he's well-rounded in a good way. And the last thing is he does have the higher-level wins. I know we got the Gerald Meerschaert win for Krzysztof Jotko, and that's a good win. That has aged very well. Brendan Allen has got a lot more names on there that are quite a bit higher on that level of competition. So for me, last I saw, you could still get Allen at even money or maybe like minus 105. For me, that I'm hitting that line. In fact, yeah, like already done. So for me, Brendan Allen's a good pick here. Why do I say that? I think he has more paths to victory. Jotko has a good decision path to victory. He can control the fight. I don't think Brendan Allen's going to let him. And because of that, I think Brendan Allen should be able to get this fight either to the ground, make the fight ugly on the feet, maybe control that pace in a way that usually Jotko is able to control the pace. Brendan Allen can mess that up for him, break that rhythm, really get this fight ugly, or take it to the ground and get the sub, because I do think Brendan Allen has those abilities, and he's shown it in his fight. So for me, Brendan Allen's a nice pick here. Not a lock, but for the odds, you can't pass that up. I'm taking Brendan Allen. If you think I'm wrong and you think Jotko's the better fighter all around, or just, going to be able to put out another decision here, let me know, because, I like that back and forth with you guys in the comments, but I really do think Brendan Allen gets the win here. So let's move on to the next fight. Here we have Joaquim Silva taking on Jesse Ronson. Ronson 1-3-1, that extra one there being a no contest. Silva, on the other hand, is 2-3. So I'm going to break these guys down real quick. I don't think this one's going to take a lot of time, so here we go. Ronson's got good kicks and decent grappling. I think that decent grappling will probably get negated in this fight because he's going up against Silva, who is a pretty darn good grappler. So I'd give him the nod for it, but I just don't think it's going to help a lot here. The dude's had a rough run in the UFC. Obviously, when you're 1-3-1, it's not a good look. Probably getting cut if he loses this one. He's also like 36, so I can see the UFC getting rid of him. Sucks for Johnson, but it's the way it is. He's got a tough matchup here against Joaquim Silva. He's also, that no contest is because he popped for what he said was tainted supplements, and then he had used the entire supplement, so they couldn't test it in the lab or whatever to make sure that that's what it was. So there's really no proof, but that's what he said. If you're going to take him as word, tainted supplement wasn't really his fault, he says, but I don't know. Either way, he popped, so that's the way that is. On the other hand, Silva, good hands. The guy's got decent boxing. Pretty good takedowns anyway. I'm not gonna say lights out takedowns, but they're pretty good takedowns. But good grappling, good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. If this fight gets to the ground, he should be able to wear on Ronson. The problem is Silva can fall off a cliff sometimes in the later parts of a fight. I don't think it'll matter too much here. I do think Silva's gonna get the finish. If he doesn't get the finish, I think he'll have already banked 2 rounds. So as long as he doesn't get finished himself in the third, I think Silva's gonna be okay. So obviously I've shown my hand already. I do think Silva should be able to get this one done. Not super, super confident because who knows, maybe Ronson's back on his supplements. But for that, I do think Silva gets the win here. I think it's just a bad run for Ronson. I think he's gotten bad matchups. Stylistically, this is a bad matchup for him. One of his better skills, being his decent grappling, is going to be negated, especially because he is a decent kicker. And, well, guess what happens when you throw kicks against a good grappler? Well, they want to catch those kicks and take you down. So for Silva, it's a pretty good, favorable matchup in his sense, when the opposite is true for Ronson. So for me, I got Silva. Let me know what you think. We're going to just keep this thing moving along. Here we have a couple of ladies who are in the opposite stages of the career. We have Jessica Penne, 2-3 in her last 5 fights, and Tabbatha Ricci, 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Ricci being a much younger fighter here. That is something to take into account. Also, so that 4-1, her only loss is to Manon Fiorot. Not a bad loss. That girl's fighting Caitlin Chikagian, basically in the title eliminator coming up soon. So her only loss being to her, not a bad look for Ricci here. Penne, on the other hand, she's towards the end of her career. She is coming off that loss to Emily Ducote, where Ducote just kicked the heck out of her leg. Penne had some moments in that fight, but it was clear that there were just a few things that Penne was starting to miss a step on, or just not quite be where she once was. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Penne was ever the top tier in the division, but she's gone down just a little bit from where she was in her heyday, I guess. So for me, this fight's going to come down to 2 things. So is this going to be on the feet or on the ground? If it's on the ground, I really, really, really like Tabbatha Ricci here. In fact, I think it's going to get to the ground because Tabbatha Ricci has really good top pressure. She's able to hold you there, hit you with some small shots, wear on you, beat you down. Whereas Penne she'll accept the ground. So if you can get her to the bottom, she'll accept it, try to look for arm bars, triangles, but not to success against someone of the level of Tabbatha Ricci in that grappling on the ground with Ricci on top. I don't think Penne can get those submissions. So for me, that is a big thing to highlight. I do really think that Ricci can take advantage of that. On the other hand, Tabbatha Ricci has horrible striking volume. She'll throw 1-2 and then nothing, and then nothing, and then nothing, and then maybe another 1-2, and then nothing again. So her striking volume is really not great. I wish she could pick that up a little bit for her sake, but for now, this is what we've got. On the other hand, Penne has a lot better striking volume. She'll throw those punches out there, 2, 3 at a time sometimes, working the kicks every now and then, nothing crazy. I mean, like, she's not doing like spinning hook kicks or anything like that, but she's doing the fundamentals and she's doing them well with the striking volume. On the other hand, Ricci won't. So it comes down to this. Does this fight go to the ground? If so, when does it go to the ground? If it goes to the ground early in the round, Tabbatha Ricci is going to bank that round, no problem. If it doesn't, and Penne is able to keep it on the feet that whole round, she's going to bank that round. So for me, I do think Ricci gets this win here. I do think she's the younger, obviously I know she's the younger fighter. I think because she's the younger fighter, I think she has more upside physically. She has good top pressure. Typically, grapplers beat strikers when it's close, when the skills are close. So for me, I don't think that Penne is going to be able to fend off the takedown the entire fight. I do not think that Tabbatha Ricci needs more than a couple of shots per round to get this fight to the ground. And I think once it gets there, Penne will be content to stay there. I do like Tabbatha Ricci in this one. Do I think she gets a finish? I want to say no. I do think this is probably going to go to a decision, but I think it's going to be a pretty clear-cut one. I like the Tabbatha Ricci line. It has moved a lot. I think it's still accurate. It's just over minus 200, like 210, 220. I do think that that's accurate. It started a little bit lower than that, and that's where a lot of people were hitting it hard, myself included. Tabbatha Ricci is a good pick here. Could she lose to Penne? Oh yeah, but after watching that Emily Ducati fight, I do think that this fight is going to be a Tabbatha Ricci win without too much trouble, and I think Penne is kind of towards the end of her career, and I think she knows that as well. So let me know if you think I'm wrong. If you think Penne is going to keep it on the feet, put on a striking clinic, and box Tabbatha Ricci's face in, let me know. But let's go right on to that next fight because we ain't got all night. Okay, another matchup where I think that the line is way off. So we have Ilir Latifi and Aleksei Oleinik both coming in 2-3 in their last 5 fights. Both guys pretty dang old. I believe Oleinik's like, 45 and 38 or 9 on the other side for Latifi. So obviously we've got the Masters division here, okay? So what we're going to look at is some of the intangibles. What matchup is more favorable for which guy is basically what I'm looking at here. And when I look at these two, Latifi, his biggest pro that he's had lately is his strong wrestling and top pressure. He's able to win minutes that way, okay? On the other hand, for Oleinik, it's those crazy submission skills. If he wins, it's by submission most often. I know he has that split decision win over Verdum, I believe it is, not that long ago. But anyway, the dude's got like 40-something submission wins. The dude's got 60 wins in his career. The guy knows how to win a fight, and most of the time it's by submission. So those submissions are nuts. When you look at the two guys here, they both are grappling heavy. But here's the thing. The fight starts on the feet. Now, one would say Latifi's probably got better striking, right? Maybe. Oleinik's got some odd striking, but he's 6'2" with an 80-inch reach against a 5'10", 75-inch reach. When you look at that, Oleinik can work that distance, and he can throw that jab out there, hit you with these weird strikes. He's got a 5-inch reach. That means he can hit Latifi 5 inches before Latifi can hit him, more or less. He's also 6'2" against 5'10", so he's able to use that. So that height comes from somewhere, and I assume it's not all torso. So for me, Oleinik has a good advantage in the striking for the fact that he has the reach and can reach. He can reach Latifi before Latifi can reach him. And even though I don't see him being the better striker, Latifi lacks volume on the feet. He does not want to just throw hands and burn out his cardio because both guys don't really have very good cardio. I do think Oleinik is going to get the slightest edge in winning minutes in the striking. Could he get flattened? Yeah, totally could get flattened. Latifi hits like a truck. He's a big dude. But I think this fight's going to end up on the ground at some point. Now, the reason that I say that is because A, both guys are grapplers, primarily. And B, I think that Oleinik is willing to just fall to his back at some point in this fight. And I don't know that that's really a bad thing for him in the sense that Oleinik can get you submitted from pretty much anywhere as he's shown over his career. For me, Having Oleinik at like plus 155 as the underdog is crazy. I'm not confident in Oleinik whatsoever. I'm not confident in either of these guys. Like I said, both guys are 2-3 in their last 5 fights. Both guys are on the last leg of their career. But Oleinik's got 60 friggin' wins, okay? So the guys know how to get it done. And those submission skills are solid. So if Latifi's going to take him down and try to lay on him, I don't know that that's his best path to victory because Oleinik can submit you from the bottom with something you've never even seen before. He also, if he can manage to get on top as they're coming down, kind of roll it over, flip it, whatever. I think if he gets on the bottom flat and whatever, I don't think he's going to be able to sweep him. I do think Latifi's a big, strong dude, so I don't think Oleinik's going to be able to sweep him as easily as he can with some other guys. But on the way down, Oleinik could get the flip over there, and in doing that, get himself in a more advantageous position. To me, I think Oleinik has way better grappling skills, both offensively and defensively, whereas Latifi's more of the offensive, kind of hold you down, hit you with a couple of shots type of grappler. Look for maybe some ground and pound, but I don't think that's a smart move against somebody like Oleinik, so I think he's going to be content to kind of let that one stay. For me, I like Oleinik as an underdog here. No, I'm not confident in it. You can't be confident in a 45-year-old in the UFC. I'm sorry, it's just not the way that works. But I will take Oleinik when you give me him at plus 155 against a guy that also is 2-3 in his last 5 fights and is also towards the end of his career. If you think I'm crazy, feel free to let me know because I do love that back and forth. If you think I'm right and you're also thinking Oleinik's got a shot to get a sub here, let's get it, okay? Let's go on that. I might toss something on the sub prop because I think that sub prop is what's probably going to be about the same as his money line. So I guess, I don't know, maybe I'll just take the money line. But at the same time, Oleinik by subs is a pretty good play. Oleinik just as straight money line is a decent play. The guy's plus 155 last I saw. Yeah, Latifi's got a shot, don't get me wrong. In fact, a lot of people are picking Latifi, and I totally understand why. He is a bit younger, but yeah, you can't take a guy like the boa constrictor and tell me that he doesn't have a shot against a guy that's probably going to want to get a takedown on him. So I got Oleinik. Let me know what you think. Let's go. We've got a couple more fights left. This one is the halfway part. So I guess we got like 7 more fights left. This is the halfway mark of the card. 6 more fights? 7 more fights? I don't remember. This is the halfway mark of the card. Let's get to the next one. Here we go. Next up, we have 2 4-1 fighters in their last 5 fights. We have Viacheslav Borshchev taking on Mike Davis. This should be, or could be, has the potential to be a striker's delight. Mike Davis loves to box, throw his hands, keep his feet moving, hit you, drop you, throw the power in the hands. For Borshchev, it's kickboxing, boxing. That's what he does best. So for me, hopefully we get that. The fan in me wants to see that. Realistically, to me, this is the fight where you kick back, put your feet up on the coffee table, crack open a couple of root beers, and have a good time. But there's also money to be made here if you're willing to get a little wild. Although, I think this is going to be a fun, striking battle. There is a chance that Mike Davis pulls out the old wrestling shoes, starts shooting takedowns after he saw what happened with Mark DeCasey in that one loss in the last 5 for Borshchev. And that can be the case. But something that you may forget is that Borshchev has shown the ability to get back up when he is taken down in most fights. DeCasey was an exception. DeCasey was able to hold him down and keep him there. And because Borshchev is taking this fight on short notice, that is totally a possibility. And I don't blame anybody for thinking that is going to be the case. But something else to keep in mind. Mike Davis is coming off a whole slew of injuries. Bicep, shoulder, hand, everything. Like, his arms are they've got to be bionic at this point with how much he's had to have them fixed. So the dude's coming off of some serious injuries in his arms. What extent are they going to bother him? I don't know. That's hard to say. We don't know. But you don't like to see that from a guy that's probably going to want to, wrestle, because wrestling takes a lot of arms. You got to be able to put your hands together, get him locked under the butt, pick the guy up, drop him down. You also be able to use those arms to muscle him up against the cage if you want to go that route. You got to be able to use those arms for collecting the legs if you're shooting an open shot down right out in the middle of the cage. So for me, it's easier to box with arm injuries than it is to wrestle. And I know that sounds crazy because you're boxing with your hands, but it's for real. Wrestling takes a lot of arms. It's the real thing. So for me, those injuries do make me think that maybe he won't want to wrestle as much, especially if he has to take down Borshchev multiple times. And then that might play into the fan favorite fight that I'm hoping this is, where we get to see a lot of good striking. With that, Mike Davis keeps his hands pretty low. He'll keep him down by his waist where he can throw his shots from down there. You can even see them on screen. That's how low they are. So he'll keep his hands down low when he throws his shots a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. For that, that's scary with a guy like Borshchev who can put your lights out with one shot. So, good fight. I don't recommend necessarily that you put this one on your slate, but if you are, the value's on Borshchev. If it becomes a striking match, I think that these guys match up really, really fun. But I think Borshchev is a top tier striker. I believe he trains at American Top Team, which is where he's training to work on his grappling because he needs that takedown defense. But there, I believe he's teaching striking. He's one of the striking coaches, from my understanding, which I believe is why he was at the Contender Series the other week when he was there to do the translating that they kind of pulled him into, is because he was a coach in that instance. So for me, Borshchev's striking is really, really darn good. It's next level, okay? That's not to take away from Mike Davis's boxing. His is also really good, but skill for skill, Borshchev's one of the better strikers in the UFC. One other thing that I thought was really interesting is that one loss for Mike Davis in his last 5 fights is to Gilbert Burns. So no shame in that whatsoever. So, Mike Davis and Viacheslav Borshchev, both guys 4-1, both guys looking to strike primarily. This should be a fun fight. I would rather kick my feet up with some root beer, like I said. But if you're going to play it, I lean the Borshchev side. He's my pick to win the fight. Short notice, I know, but with it being short notice, that means Mike Davis has also not had the ability to game plan specifically around Borshchev throughout his camp as well. And for Borshchev, the biggest thing is if guys can plan for that lack of lifelong grappling experience that a lot of fighters have. I think that actually plays into Borshchev's favor more than you would think with this fight being short notice. So for me, I lean Borshchev, but like I said, this should just be a fun fight. I would leave it off the card, but if you're a bit of a degenerate, kind of like me, Borshchev's got the value. So let me know what you think. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe you think Mike Davis is going to go out there and wrestle him the whole way through. Could happen. So let me know. Let's move right along to the next one. We got a couple of really good fights coming up. A lot of them that I really, really like. So let's stay tuned and check those out. And if you haven't done it yet, hit like. And if you're enjoying this content so you can see the next video, go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to try and get the Bellator card out as well this week. So you're going to be able to see all the goodies that you can get in the world of MMA. So let's move on to the next fight. Here it is, John Castaneda taking on Daniel Santos. Both guys 3-2 in their last 5 fights. And this is a really interesting matchup for me. And I really like this one on this card a lot. And let me tell you why. Let's start with Daniel Santos. Really good submission ability. He's shown it on the regional scene. He's only had 1 fight in the UFC and did not get to show it there as it was a loss to Julio Arce. But he also has some pretty good highlight reel spinning attacks, spinning kicks, spinning elbows. 3 finishes via spinning attack on the regional scene, which is pretty sweet. Most people don't have that on their resume. 2 spinning kicks and 1 spinning elbow, if my memory serves correct. I did watch all those fights, and they are very impressive. So Daniel Santos has a very wild style, and there's a lot of spinning attacks, and if you take him down because of it, he's got that submission ability from his back, as well as if he ends up on top, he can hit you with something from there. He's got the arm bars, the triangles, you name it. On the other hand, we have John Castaneda. That's hard to say for me. I'm sorry about that. So he is a more well-rounded, and believe it or not, there's 2 fighters on the same card. I have a positive next to well-rounded, and it's not just because I don't have anything else to say, because John Castaneda does have really good wrestling and some solid volume. So when he's on the feet, he's throwing with volume, closing the distance, controlling the fight. When he wants to, he's taking that fight to the ground, able to get things done there as well. I think that this matchup is a very fun matchup for as long as it lasts, because there is that excitement factor of Santos, who can just put your lights out with a spinning move or a submission at any time. But I think that John Castaneda here should just be the all-around better fighter in most areas. Aside from a highlight reel finish on the Santos side, I think John Castaneda gets this done probably 9 times out of 10. I like John Castaneda as a parlay piece. I like him on this fight. I like him a lot on this fight. I think that this is a fight that he should win, could win, probably will win. Santos has a shot, like I said. Very exciting fighter who can put your lights out with 1 shot, who can also get you with the subs. But for me, John Castaneda has almost all the value there, and the odds are starting to show that as they have kind of climbed in his direction. Somewhere in the minus 220 range right now, as I heard. But I like that. You can parlay him with some of the others on this card that I think are good. They're pretty solid picks, like a Tabbatha Ricci, for example. Castaneda all day. Yeah, like I said, the only way I see Santos winning, highlight reel spinning attack or crazy submission off his back. Castaneda has numerous paths to victory, whether it's decision, submission, TKO, KO, whatever. I think if this fight goes to decision, Santos has very, very little chance of winning this fight in a decision. He has to get the finish here. So for me, that makes John Castaneda my pick. And I think it's a pretty solid one. If you think I'm crazy, let me know. If you're good buddies with Daniel Santos, I'm sorry. I did not mean to shit all over your friend here. It's just the way it is. I'm just picking the fights. I will pick Daniel Santos down the road, I'm sure, because he does have a really exciting style that can put guys out. But in this one, John Castaneda is going to be the winner. Not a lock, but pretty darn close to it. I'll see you on the next fight. In a fight where one guy is over minus 900 as the favorite, we have Sodiq Yusuff taking on Don Shainis. Now, Shainis coming in 5-0 in his last 5 fights, coming off the regional scene to step in and take on Sodiq Yusuff on fairly short notice. 4-1 in his last 5, that one loss being to Arnold Allen by decision. No shame there. So for this fight here, I do think it is something that the UFC wanted to get Yusuff on this card. Yusuff is on this card now. Don Shainis taking advantage of that opportunity, has a big opportunity in front of him. It's kind of one of those things where, is it more important to get that first win in the UFC or just to get your foot in the door? Sodiq Yusuff is a tough matchup for your first fight in the UFC. Big level of step up in competition. To this point, to my knowledge, Cody Pfister is the best person that Don Shainis has beaten on the regional scene. Good win, don't get me wrong, but Sodiq Yusuff, obviously his level of competition is very high. He has that loss to Arnold Allen, so that's not great. I mean, it's great that he has fought to a decision with Arnold Allen. Losing's not what you want to do, but he does have good wins. He has a win over Mike Davis, who was fighting Viacheslav Borshchev on this card as well. So a win over Mike Davis is pretty impressive. Sodiq Yusuff is he's a really talented prospect. So I believe he's like 12-2 on the career, pretty solid. In that level of competition isn't nothing to scoff at. So for me, the guy's got a massive strength advantage. The guy's a powerhouse. He also stronger level of competition, like I mentioned, but the thing is he can adjust his game plan on the fly. And we've seen it in some of his fights so far where what he's doing originally isn't working. Goes back to the corner. This might be more of a credit to his coaches, but I don't know. Either way, he listens to what they said and adjusts on the fly. Takes into account what's not working, implements the new strategy, it then works. So Sodiq Yusuff, solid at doing that, massively powerful. The guy can adjust accordingly, but he does start fights very slow. The first round is probably not going his way in higher level fights. This one, I'm not sure. If Don Shainis is going to win a round, it is the first round. So Don Shainis also has the advantage of being a fast starter, relatively speaking. A lot of his wins are in the first round, albeit against kind of lower level competition. Guys like a Jay Ellis, who, my gosh, the guy's had over 100 fights, but he's also had over 100 losses. So what do you expect? So poor Jay Ellis, just going in there to get beat. Like, man, they got to pay that guy pretty good, You go in there, he's got, what does he got, like 102, 3, 4 losses at this point? That guy's got to be getting paid real well. They're like, hey, Jay, we got you another guy we want you to go in there and lose to in the first round by KO, TKO, something like that. Sound good? Okay, here's your money. I mean, come on, man. You get knocked out how many times and you just still hung it up? I'm sure Jay Ellis is a great guy, but my goodness, 100 losses. He's got like 16 wins and 100 losses. Anyway, that's enough about Jay Ellis. He's not fighting tonight. We have Don Shainis taking on Sodiq Yusuff. Don Shainis, like I said, the lower level competition, he does win these fights pretty early on against a lot of these guys. Cody Pfister was a good win, I will say. Shainis is pretty slick on the ground, whether he's looking for a submission or if he's using that to set his ground and pound. He is pretty slick on the ground. I just think he's going to have a nightmare against Super Sodiq. Don't get me wrong, Sodiq is obviously the favorite here for a good reason. The minus 900 is totally unplayable. But yeah, I mean, Sodiq Yusuff should win this fight. Don Shainis could win. I just don't see it. So, I mean, 10 times out of 10, I'm picking Sodiq Yusuff in this fight. If I'm proven wrong, please come back to this video and tell me I'm a dummy. And then I also want to see your bet slip on Don Shainis, because I don't believe that any of you are picking him to win this fight. So, for me, Sodiq Yusuff is the easy win here. Not easy win as like he's going to just beat the brakes off of Shainis and Shainis isn't going to do anything, but easy win as in he should be able to get this thing done pretty much anywhere that the fight takes place. And I don't think that Shainis has a whole lot of paths to victory here. So, like I said, super Sodiq. Let's move on to a more competitive matchup. Going right along to the next one. In this one, we've got a couple of guys coming off of a string of 2 losses apiece. Both guys looking to get back on track here. We have Raoni Barcelos at 3-2 in his last 5 fights. 2-2-1 for Trevin Jones. For Barcelos, that 3-2. So those last 2 losses, before those 2 losses, he had not lost since 2014, which is crazy. So the guy was clearly beating a lot of good talent in the UFC and outside of it, up until those last 2 losses, which leads me to believe that age is starting to catch up to him at the ripe young age of 35, which is getting up there for a fighter. For Trevin Jones, 2-2-1 in the last 5. That one is a no contest. For Trevin Jones, kind of just a few things if a few things go a little bit different for him, he ends up getting a couple of wins here that he probably could have gotten just with a few little tweaks, but he does struggle to adjust mid-fight. For Trevin Jones, he'll come in with a game plan. His corner can tell him something. He can probably know what he needs to do, but for whatever reason, he just can't change it mid-fight, or he hasn't shown that ability to me anyway, from what I've seen. But he does have some strong power punching, just lacks the volume to get it done sometimes. But if he hits, it's probably going to hurt. And in this case, I do think that if he does connect with Barcelos is probably hitting the mat pretty hard. Will he get the finish? I don't know. Probably, but maybe not. On the Barcelos side, the dude's got stiff leg kicks and a slick wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu combination. And that's something that not a lot of guys do have, is the combination of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with good wrestling. A lot of the Jiu-Jitsu people, when you're in there doing your Jiu-Jitsu and you want to get the fight to the mat, what do? You pull guard, or you like try to get in close and do some trips and what have you. Barcelos can just get a good takedown. So Barcelos has that wrestling in his back pocket or his front pocket even. I mean, he uses it. He's going to probably use it here, and if he does, I think he gets the win. I think Trevin Jones' path to victory is he has to turn up his volume, because that is what Victor Henry used to beat Barcelos in the last fight. I don't know that Trevin Jones has the ability, or he may have the ability. I don't know that he will use the ability to turn up that volume to an extent that he can wear on Barcelos and get Barcelos to start slowing down, making some mistakes with that age starting to catch up to him. Barcelos has a win over Said Nurmagomedov. That is a big win, because Said's been whooping people lately. The guy's been making people look like total garbage, and fighters that are pretty good fighters too. So a win there, big deal. That wasn't even that long ago. A couple of fights ago, well, like 3 or 4 fights ago, something like that. 5 fights ago, maybe. It wasn't that long ago. Anyway, for Barcelos, the guy's got good wins. It's just those last 2 fights, he hasn't quite been able to get it done, both of which I do believe were by decision. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe both of them were by decision. For Trevin Jones, like I said, sometimes the game plan is just not quite. It just needs tweaked mid-fight, and he hasn't been able to adapt to that. And that power punching ability is great, but not when you're waiting for that power shot. So for me, I'm going to take Barcelos here as the favorite. I do think he wins this more often than not. I'm going to say 6 or 7 out of 10 times, probably, give or take. For me, that's a clear pick there. The odds are a little bit in the favor of Barcelos, more than I would like them to be. I believe you can still get Jones at plus 180 something or another, plus 190, if you're looking that route. So if you are thinking Jones, this is a good chance to play him on a aging, potentially fading Barcelos. I don't blame you there. I don't mind the odds, but I do think Barcelos is the more well-rounded, in a good way, better fighter over Trevin Jones. So for me, I'm taking Barcelos. Let me know what you think. And if you've made it this far in the video and you're still watching, you'll probably like the darn thing. So hit like for me, would you? It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't cost you anything. Nobody's going to be like, oh, you liked that video, so let's just shove it down your throat over and over again. No, it's going to be okay. Just hit like for me, would you? It helps me out, helps more people get to see this channel. And when more people see this channel, we can get better quality videos coming your way. So hit like, it'd be great. If you want to see more of this content, subscribe to the channel. If you don't want to see more of this content, why are you still watching this video? And don't bother subscribing. That would just not do any good. But if you do want to see more of this content, hit subscribe for me. I would greatly appreciate it. We've got a couple of fights left. Let's go to the next one. Okay, we've made it all the way to our co-main event of the evening. We've got Randy Brown taking on Francisco Trinaldo. Both guys coming in 4-1 in their last 5 fights, and I'm going to lay my cards on the table right here and now. Typically in a fight, I am picking Francisco Trinaldo. Obviously, 4-1 in his last 5. That has been a pretty good pick for me in most of his fights. In fact, I can't remember when I haven't picked him in. But this is a tough matchup for Francisco Trinaldo, and let me tell you why. First off, it is the age, 42 years old. It hasn't caught up to him yet, but this might be the fight that it does. When you're at 42 years of age, things start to kind of catch up to you. At some point it will. This one it has not so far. The bigger issue, we've got a 5'9" Francisco Trinaldo taking on a 6'3" Randy Brown. Even bigger issue, we have a 70-inch reach over for Trinaldo, 78-inch reach for Randy Brown. 78 inches. That is an 8-inch reach advantage. 8 inches. Randy Brown can hit Francisco Trinaldo 8 inches before Francisco Trinaldo can hit Randy Brown. That means Randy Brown can probably hit Francisco Trinaldo before Francisco Trinaldo can even throw a rock at Randy Brown. That's how big that gap is. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but 8-inch reach advantage is crazy. And with somebody who is so good at keeping his range control, like Randy Brown is, that is a nightmare for Trinaldo. Typically, Trinaldo can walk a guy down, back him up against the cage, and throw some of those power shots. Well, guess what? Excellent range control, and not only that, but he has really good lateral movement. We saw him use this against Chaos Williams. Yes, he did get hit in that fight. Clearly, his chin held up. That also is another thing that Trinaldo is going to have to watch out for. Randy Brown seems to have a chin. So, with that said, because of the rangy striking style and youth and lateral movement of Randy Brown, that is not the best matchup for Trinaldo. Now, can Trinaldo get it done? Absolutely. The dude kicks the leg, the body, throws with power in every punch. The guy can punch a hole through a wall, and I'm not talking about drywall, okay, Kyle? I'm talking like a straight-up brick wall. The guy hits like a truck. Randy Brown, on the other hand, he's a little more efficient with his striking. Now, it's good, high-level quality strikes. Don't get me wrong, they do pack a pop, but Trinaldo's obviously going to be the more powerful striker in this. I just don't think that he's going to be able to close that range as well as he would like to. If he does, I don't think he'll get to do it consistently, maybe once or twice. Randy Brown realizes this is a bad move and keeps that distance a little bit more throughout the rest of the fight, keeping him at bay with rangy strikes. And like I said, he does have that range that he's going to use, rightfully so. The guy's 6'3". Okay, so for me, I think Randy Brown is going to get the win here. I hate picking against Trinaldo. I do like Trinaldo. I'm a fan of Trinaldo's. I just think that stylistically, this is a horrible matchup for Trinaldo, and I think Randy Brown should get this one done. Can he get KO'd? Yeah, totally. I actually picked Chaos Williams to KO Randy Brown, and I was totally wrong about that one. But because I was wrong about that one, means I'm probably getting this one right. Because Randy Brown ate a shot from Chaos Williams and didn't go down. Williams also has that crazy, stupid power. Same with Trinaldo. But Chaos Williams is a lot younger than Trinaldo. Old man strength is a thing, so maybe that'll play a bit of a role for Trinaldo. But no, I think Randy Brown's going to get this one done. There's a reason he's a pretty big favorite. It's a bit lopsided now. I think he's minus 300 something. Rightfully so. Randy Brown's a pretty confident pick for me tonight. I think you can parlay him with with a few of the others that are up there in the higher echelon as far as likelihood of winning. Someone like a Randy Costa, somebody like I mentioned Tabbatha Ricci earlier, a couple others. I do really like Randy Brown in this slot. Good pick here. If you want to hedge it off, Trinaldo by knockout is a pretty good spot. We've got our main event coming up next, though. Mackenzie Dern, Yan Xiaonan. I'm looking forward to that. So let's talk about that one right now. Well, I told you it was here. It's the main event. We have Mackenzie Dern taking on Yan Xiaonan. For Yan Xiaonan, she's 3-2 in her last 5 fights. For Dern, she is 4-1. Both ladies have fought some of the best level of competition. Their losses are only to that top tier fighter in the division, upper echelon fighters. In fact, I believe one of Yan's losses is to the champion herself. So we do have that. For me, this fight is going to be very lopsided. But which way is it lopsided? We are yet to find out. And the reason for that is, if this fight stays on the feet, Yan Xiaonan has she has probably the best boxing in the division. Her hands are great. A couple others that could maybe contest that statement, but Yan Xiaonan's boxing is really good. It really is. I'm not exaggerating here. Her boxing is solid, but she lacks grappling defense. It's not great. It's not good. It's below average. Her grappling defense is not good at all. Maybe, and by that I mean on the ground. While she's resisting takedowns, so. But her grappling defense, once the fight gets to the ground, is not good at all. Now, I say grappling defense because if she ends up on top, I do think that there is a world where she can throw some hammers down, throw some punches, throw some elbows, and she can do some serious damage from the top, but from the bottom, she does not have that ability. And against Mackenzie Dern, I don't even think being on the top is a good idea because Mackenzie Dern is the opposite of Yan Xiaonan. For Mackenzie Dern, the girl has lights out Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It is actually really, really, really good. Like it's not just like, oh, she's good for like a women's fighter. And I hate when people say that. Her Jiu-Jitsu is good. Like it's really solid. I couldn't compete with her. Probably all of you watching couldn't compete with her. I don't know. She's freaking good on the ground, guys. Really good. Her striking though, the opposite. It's horrible. It's so bad. I know she's made some improvements. We did get to see a little glimmer of maybe like an improvement or two in some of her fights recently. Most recently, I would say that Tisha Torres fight. It was hard for her to get Torres to the ground. She did a couple of all right strikes. She also had a pretty good height and reach advantage in that fight. But her striking is not good whatsoever. And she does lack the open mat takedown, which is something that if she added that to her game, it wouldn't matter so much that her striking is very poor because that open mat takedown would really open up that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Instead, she has to cross the plane entirely in kind of get into like the clinch or up against the cage clinch there as well, or like getting close enough to kind of drag the opponent to the ground rather than shoot in from range. So for me, if Dern could get that mastered, I think she could have a run at a title. Until then, she's going to just be close and not quite there. For Yan Xiaonan, the opposite is true. If she could just figure out that grappling defense to the point that it's at least passable and keeps in enough so that people have to really think about what they're going to do if they shoot the takedown and it doesn't go well, because that boxing is really solid. So for me, this fight is going to go one of two ways, and one way would be Yan Xiaonan just boxing Mackenzie Dern's face in, get a TKO or a decision, where Mackenzie Dern probably never looks the same again because she's just eating punches all night. It is a 5-round fight, and you can eat a lot of punches in 5 rounds, especially from someone with the boxing of Yan Xiaonan. On the other hand, this fight could be Mackenzie Dern gets to the ground, and the second it gets to the ground, she finishes Yan just with whatever. Armbar, rear naked choke, heel hook, knee bar, Kimura. It doesn't matter. She is going to be so much better on the ground that she could pretty much do whatever she wants. She's just going to slice right through her. So for me, if the question is when does this fight get to the ground? Because I know that it probably will at some point at the ground. Most MMA fights do at some point. But when? If Mackenzie Dern's only able to get it to the ground with 3 seconds left in the round, well, guess what? She's probably not going to tap her out in 3 seconds. That's a little bit crazy. But 20, 30 seconds? Yeah, she might be able to. You get her a whole 3 minutes? Oh, yeah, no chance. Dern's going to get the win there. So for me, it really comes down to when can Dern get the round? How many punches does she have to eat before she can get close enough to get this fight to the ground? I'm going to pick Dern in this matchup. I don't feel really good about that because I do think Yan Xiaonan can just outbox most of the division, but definitely Mackenzie Dern. And I do think that if Dern struggles to get close enough without taking too much damage, she struggles to get close enough to get the takedown, I could see a world where every time Dern enters, she starts to get rattled towards the end of the fight because she's just frustrated and just entering recklessly to try to get the takedown because she knows that's her only path to victory at that point. And that could go for Yan really well. I don't see Dern not able to get the takedown though at some point in the fight. So I will pick her. The second this fight gets to the ground, Yan is in some serious, serious trouble. And for me, that's what makes this fight so interesting is that they're so polar opposite in that if you're playing Mackenzie Dern, you might as well play her by submission. I do think that that's the way to play her. She is a pretty decent favorite, minus 200 something. I would leave this one off my card mostly. I'm not that confident in either one either way, and not because I don't think either of them are good. I think they're both super talented in one specific area and lacking in the other, as I've already stated. So for me, if you're playing Yan Xiaonan, you could play decision prop, you could play the KO TKO. If you're playing Dern, you kind of have to play the submission because playing money line, that's way too big of a line for someone who could just get her face boxed in. So, like I said, though, I do think Dern wins this fight more than half of the time. Maybe that's only 6 out of 10 times, but hey, that is still more than half the time. Let me know what you think. I do think this fight is really close. Usually I'm going to pick the grappler over the striker. I do think grapplers tend to beat strikers. In fact, the numbers say that. So for me, that's why I'm picking Dern here. Let me know what you think. If you think I'm wrong, I would love to hear it. I do like going back and forth with you guys in the comments. Just don't be a dick about it. If you think I'm wrong and you can give me a good counterpoint, great. If you just tell me I'm a big dummy head, well, I want to see your bet slip on the other person, and I also want to see that at the end of the fight afterwards when you're talking all that smack and you tell me I'm a big old dummy. Well, guess what? I need to see that bet slip because otherwise I don't believe that you actually picked that and you're just coming here to talk smack because you're a troll. And that's okay. I don't mind that. Trolls still help get some engagement in the comments. So if you're a troll, have at it. Let's go for it. I might even favorite your comment. But like I said, I'm picking Dern here. Let me know what you got. Let's do this thing. Let's go make some money on this card because like I said, I really like this card. There's a lot of fighters that are big favorites, but not so big that you can't play them aside from Sodiq Yusuff. You can't really play that one. But big favorites that you can put together that are pretty close to a lock. And there's a couple of really good dogs. I've already mentioned them. I'm not going to go over all of it again. But like I said, let's go make that money. UFC Fight Night, Dern versus Jan. It should be a fun one. These kind of cards usually are. I will hopefully see you in the next breakdown. We will probably have 286, Bellator 286 coming up this Wednesday. Keep an eye on your YouTube screen for Wednesday. But I will see you there. I will see you in the comments. Let's all be friends and hit that like button, all right? See you soon. Let's go.